Hello everybody, and welcome back to the Salt Lake City Snowhawks expansion franchise, and welcome to the 2029 NFL Draft. We're here in Cincinnati, the host site here, as we are on location. Our Snowhawks set to draft 32nd overall after capturing our first ever Super Bowl in franchise history just 5 years into our existence. Back-to-back NFC champions. Where do we go from here? We did miss out on our top free agent priority there in Jordan Mailata as he signed with the Cleveland Browns along with Jalen Hurts as they followed each other west a little bit there into the Midwest of Cleveland. But on the clock here are the Tennessee Titans, #1 overall, and they're going to go wide receiver Nick Freeman here out of Clemson. If you've been following along with the franchise, the Titans had the #1 overall pick back in the year one offseason, where they also selected a wide receiver. So they're pairing Roy McBride, former LSU Tiger, now with Nick Freeman, as they make up one of the best young wide receiver tandems there for quarterback Emmett Dalton, who signed from Cleveland after being a second-round pick there. His rookie contract expired, and he is now the signal caller there in Tennessee with two very good weapons at his disposal, which now brings up the Las Vegas Raiders as they're projected to go quarterback here, Stephen Coles, after missing out on Jalen Hurts in free agency. And there he is. Stephen Coles broke the Pittsburgh all-time passing record there, previously held by Kenny Pickett, and only did so in 3 seasons. A former 4-star recruit. He started all 3 years there at the college level, and he's now the new face of the franchise there in Vegas, as they had Darren Anderson. His rookie contract expired, former 7th overall pick from the year one offseason, but they elected to part ways with him. They pursued Jalen Hurts, missed out, but a good backup plan there, getting Stephen Coles, who is widely considered the top overall prospect in this year's draft. Now, the Carolina Panthers are on the clock at 3rd overall. Last year, they selected a very good offensive tackle, DJ Hawkins, in the top 5. He's proven to be the best offensive tackle prospect over the course of this franchise. And now at number 3 overall, I believe that's Brandon Foster, pass rusher out of Washington. A violent pass rusher, had good production there with the Huskies, and he's now going to bring that talent to the Carolina Panthers, as they're desperate to get going here. It's been rough going for them over the course of this franchise. And talk about rough goings here. Now the New York Giants are on the clock 4th overall, and we are going to have to wait quite a bit. After the top 10, we'll kind of bounce around, speed up the process, but they do have the presentation for these top 10 picks, so we'll just follow along. I think the Giants are projected to go offensive tackle, and I did think I saw on the board there Vaughn Morton, offensive tackle out of Ohio State, widely considered to be the best non-skill player in this draft here, as the Giants get some protection. I forget who their quarterback is at this point. I think it's Glenn Tyson, a formerly drafted 2nd-round pick out of Notre Dame. He's been solid for them, although a very poor season there in the NFC East, as they were the last place team. And now 5th overall, the Chicago Bears, probably the biggest disappointment in the entire NFL last season. I thought they could vie for an NFC North title, but instead it was the Minnesota Vikings who would win the division, and I thought they'd be flip-flopped. I thought the Vikings would be in the top 5 and the Bears would be all the way down at 26, but not the case, as the Bears were projected to go cornerback here, but it looks like they're going Drew Kavanaugh, pass rusher out of Michigan, the captain there for the Wolverines, a 3-year captain at that, the senior pass rusher, very productive there, and he was a mainstay on that defense for them. And now the Bears get another pass rusher, a boost to their defense, as they try to help out Caleb Williams after a very, very disappointing season, as we said. And that now brings on the Miami Dolphins at 6th overall. They were projected to go Ramon Starks, a defensive lineman out of Penn State, but maybe with that top corner, Kevin Middleton, still on the board here, maybe they'll call an audible and go in the back end of the secondary instead. The New England Patriots on deck, as they had a poor season, and the Miami Dolphins now, as Roger Goodell announcing their selection. And this is going to be who we got. And it is going to be Kevin Middleton. I see there up on the board. 6'4", over 200 pounds. Just crazy length, crazy range on the outside of the defense. Can very well guard the perimeter. And it looks like the Miami Dolphins have hopefully what they expect to be the next Jalen Ramsey in that secondary. And that now brings on the New England Patriots, a fellow AFC East team. And they have just been a debacle over the course of this franchise. They had Drake May, then they drafted a quarterback in the top 10, I think last year or the year before, and then after that would go on to sign Drake May to an extension. So they have 2 young quarterbacks, which they really didn't need to draft. Ben Rivers, it was a few years ago, and here they're going to go, I think, James Tranquil or Jared Tranquil, pass rusher out of Texas A&M. We're expecting a heavy dose of edge defenders here in the top 10. In that last mock draft, I think we had 5 or 6 in the top 10. That's Tranquil to the New England Patriots. Actually has a brother in the league as well who was drafted over the course of this franchise. James Tranquil out of Texas A&M, his brother Jared out of Ohio State, but I forget what team he was drafted by. Now the Washington Commanders on the clock, the second NFC East team we'll see here in the top 8, as the Commanders were projected Drew Kavanaugh, but he goes off the board at 5, so we'll see how the Commanders adjust, as it looks like they are going Ramon Starks, who was originally projected number 6 to the Dolphins, but I think Stark's a perfect fit for that Washington defense. A very productive player over the course of his career at Penn State. Our top player on our board is actually his line mate, Trey Hurst, who we're holding out, makes it to 32, but we're not expecting that. Although we are somewhat optimistic on that. Although I guess at this point we'll take a look at our overall draft board. Hopefully you're still here after those pageantries here to start. But Trey Hurst, we see here, our top overall prospect, probably not going to make it all the way down to 32, which will give us maybe Matt Minor here, left guard out of Ohio State, or maybe Joey Bost, left guard out of Ole Miss, because we have a glaring need on our offensive line at right guard. We'll just move one of those guys over, as we're expecting one of them to be our first draft pick, maybe at 32, but we're really hoping for a trade down. And I think this is Peter Ross, defensive end out of Central Michigan, if I'm not mistaken, as we will see when the jersey is unveiled. And that is. So when was the last time a Chippewa was selected in the top 10? I meant to look that up, but I forgot to do it prior to recording this episode. So assuming we miss out on Trey Hurst here, we'll take a quick look. 6'4", 302, A block shed, B power move, C finesse move, and he tested extremely well for an interior lineman with 4.7 speed, 38 reps at the combine, 39 at the pro day, and the traits are very, very well rounded. And now to close out the top 10, this will be the last selection, I believe, that Roger Goodell announces, as the New Orleans Saints are going to select Wyatt Robinson, offensive tackle, I believe, out of Nebraska, as the top 10 shook up a little bit differently than projected in that last mock draft. And like I said, that will close out the top 10, so only 22 selections away from our pick, and we are going to pick up the pace here, but I do want to take a look at our board a little bit. So Matt Minor is our most realistic option, I believe, if we do stand pat at 32. A for impact block, B for pass and run block. I mean, didn't test the greatest, but very strong with the 38 bench press reps. 5.18 40-yard dash, as the Detroit Lions make their selection at 11 overall. They go Kevin Charles, wide receiver out of Ole Miss. Back to Matt Minor here. And even though he is a power archetype, he does have C for run block finesse and C for pass block finesse. So no, big blemish there, as he can make up in that vicinity, even though it's not his strength. And he does have that round 1 talent grade. So that is enough, for me to be confident in selecting him at 32nd overall. But Joey Bost is a scheme fit, even though he's maybe not as imposing as Matt Minor. He's already an agile lineman, which fits our scheme. A for impact block and awareness, B for pass block and run block. And he ran just over a 5-second flat 40-yard dash, as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers select Josh Hurst, defensive end out of Iowa, at 12th overall. 33 bench press reps at the combine, was second in the vertical jump, third in the broad jump, and then top 5 in the 3-cone and 20-yard shuttle. But Bost, he also has C for pass block power and run block power, so no major weakness in his game either. And as we said, he is a scheme fit, so if Bost is there at 32 and Minor isn't, I think we would just take Bost, as we wouldn't want to risk a trade down in that spot, because guard probably is our biggest need in this year's draft, but we also really like the tight ends as well. And Roosevelt Howell, despite being like the 5th or 6th ranked tight end on the overall board, we have him as our top tight end in the class. We scouted him all the way. He came back as around 1 to 2 talent grade, as the Jacksonville Jaguars select George Wilford, a cornerback there out of USF, as he will not have far to go to join Jacksonville. But back to Roosevelt Howell, 6'6", 275, the former Ohio State Buckeye. Look at that size, pretty much having like an extra offensive tackle out on the field, with A, catching traffic, B, catching and deep route, and then A, run block. So he can do it all at tight end, maybe a little bit of a Rob Gronkowski type of player. And he tested very well compared to the rest of the tight ends in his class. And looking at all the traits, a lot of A's there, a lot of B's, only 2 D's there for run block power and spec catch, but otherwise a very polished tight end, very imposing and very athletic. So Roosevelt Howell very high on our board, and he's our projected third to 4th round talent, but we're going to not try and take any chances, and we would maybe select him as high as the late 2nd to early 3rd round. But a couple other good tight ends here, Junior Washington and Roman Saunders, who are the top 2 in the class. Maybe higher ceilings than Roosevelt Howell, but I beg to differ, although Ending up with 2 of these 3 players would be phenomenal, but we just have that glaring need at right guard. Otherwise, I would entertain the idea of selecting Washington and then maybe Roosevelt Howell on the turn and just doubling up on tight ends, much like the New England Patriots all those years ago when they drafted Gronk and Aaron Hernandez. The Pittsburgh Steelers selection now is going to be Lamar Teal, cornerback out of BYU, so I think that makes it now 3, maybe 4 cornerbacks who have been selected in the top half of the first round. A few defensive tackles here, including Carlos Childers, 6'3", 352, and I've been really wanting to get, an imposing nose tackle who could just eat up running lanes. The former Florida Gator definitely is going to need some development with the C block shed, C finesse move, and deep power move, but, good skill set to build off of, and he's supremely strong. 44 reps at the combine, 46 at the pro day, and despite being around 2 to 3 projection, he came back with around 1 to 2 talent grades, so maybe someone we look at, but we don't really need defensive tackle as much as we need some other positions, as Denver selects another corner here in the top half of the first round. That's Alonzo Williams, 6'3" cornerback out of SMU, as now the San Francisco 49ers are on the clock, our division rival there, as I think we have a 3-8 record or something like that. I got to do the quick math on that one, but we have not played them well, although I think we swept the season series this past season. And now going down the board a little bit more as we work into day 2, day 3 of the draft. We have some more sleepers down here. Justin Rogers, a tight end I really like out of Alabama. I think the most realistic scenario where we draft 2 high-end tight ends would be Roosevelt Howell in maybe the 2nd or 3rd round, then maybe Justin Rogers in the 3rd or 4th round, as the 49ers select Brian Tucker, the wide receiver out of Michigan, 6'3", 230 pounds, and he won the Heisman Trophy, showing flashes of Desmond Howard circa NCAA football 2006. And that is definitely the best one I think EA Sports has ever made. Cam Graham here, the Buck Buchanan Award winner as the top FCS defender, representing the Penn Quakers. As a couple running backs here on day 3 I really like. Sterling Pryor, 6', 231 out of Virginia Tech, power back. But look at the testing here. 4.45 40-yard dash, 31 bench press reps, which led all running backs in the vertical jump and the broad jump to go along with that. He has B vision, B for break tackle, and A for stiff arm and trucking. So Pryor, very athletic and very imposing as a power back, as the Los Angeles Chargers select Anthony Bryant, offensive tackle out of Oklahoma State. And now the Atlanta Falcons are on the clock, 19th overall. But going back to the running backs, we had Sterling Pryor there, and we also have Dwayne Gordon here out of South Dakota State. Love this player. A for ball carrier vision, B for break tackle. A little bit more well-rounded as a running back than Pryor, as he has B for spin move, so he can truck you, he can stiff arm you, he can spin on you, he can break the tackle, he has good vision, and he ran in the 4.4s with 30 reps, and I love the size there at 5'10", 234, an elusive / power back, I think. So Pryor and Dwayne Gordon, 2 running backs we're looking at on day 3, and John McPherson finally goes off the board, 19th overall to the Falcons, and he was projected number 1 overall in the first 2 mock drafts, but for some reason his stock just slipped throughout the draft process. And now the Dallas Cowboys on the clock at 20th overall. The top remaining prospect is quarterback Stephen Colvin out of Houston. We have Ben Bell here, left tackle out of Oregon. Another left tackle here, Thomas Falk out of Boston College. Another quarterback here, Kenny Weaver. And we will pick up the pace now, as we are not long to go until we're on the clock. And all of our main targets are still there. We'll hold out to see who the Cowboys select, and we'll sim by pick as they go Raekwon Greenberry, defensive tackle out of Auburn. He did come back with around 2 to 3 talent grades, so a little bit lower than projected, but I still think will be a good player. So now the Cleveland Browns, the winners of free agency after signing Jalen Hurts and Jordan Mailata, as they look to take the next step forward, and we'll sim through their pick as they select Jerry Mickens, a wide receiver, and that's the 3rd wide receiver now selected in this first round. Not many, 4 of them, because I forgot about Nick Freeman at number 1 overall. So the Green Bay Packers at 22 overall, just where they selected last year, I believe, and we traded up, I think, like 10 spots or so, or maybe it was pick 21, and we traded up 10 spots to select Taylor Goddard, who ended up winning Defensive Rookie of the Year after posting, I think, 14 sacks. So now the Green Bay Packers, as they had a wild card this past season, and they select defensive tackle Ed Stockton out of Auburn, the teammate there of Greenberry, as they made up one of the better defensive tackle tandems in all of college football, and they go off the board just 2 spots away from each other in the first round. Now the Indianapolis Colts are on the clock with the 23rd overall pick, and they go offensive tackle Ben Bell out of Oregon. Another guy like John McPherson, who was projected to go a little bit higher, but slipped here towards the end of the first round, which brings up the host team here, the Cincinnati Bengals, at 24th overall, as they select Thomas Falk, another offensive tackle, as that's back-to-back offensive tackles, and he's from Boston College. I think that's 3 or 4 Boston College offensive tackles over the course of this franchise that have been drafted in the first round. Now the Buffalo Bills at 25 overall, now 1 year removed from a Super Bowl championship after they broke our hearts there. That was Super Bowl 62, I believe, as we blew a 17-0 lead. And they're going to select Junior Harris, cornerback out of Memphis, and another corner off the board, as now the Minnesota Vikings on the clock. The biggest surprise team, I believe, from this past season. And they're going to go Brandon Minor, offensive tackle, as we're getting a run now on offensive tackles, but both our guards are still on the board, which you like to see. And now the Los Angeles Rams finished with an identical 13-4 record as us, but would have to opt for the 5th seed instead, as we held the tiebreaker. We swept the season series against them and went 5-1 in the division. They're going to select Trey Hurst, and you got to love that irony. He was our top overall prospect on our board, and he goes off a few picks before us. Not only that, to our division rival, as the Rams definitely got a good one there at 27, which brings up the Baltimore Ravens now at 28, and they go Byron Jennings, offensive tackle out of Alabama. So another offensive tackle off the board. That's now 4 in the past 6 selections, I believe, which now brings us to the final 4 in this first round. The Houston Texans fell to the Kansas City Chiefs in last year's AFC Championship game, and they are now on the clock at 29 overall, where they select offensive tackle. I should have known, Matt Skandrick out of Michigan State, 6'8", 340 pounds. Someone we really liked, but he just did not really grade out well after scouting him. He came back as around 3 to 4 talent grade, and we were not really willing to reach on him at such a steep letdown. And now the Philadelphia Eagles, after missing out on Jalen Hurts, he signs with Cleveland, and they have a huge hole to fill at quarterback. So it could be Kenny Weaver here. It could be Stephen Colvin, as both were top 10 overall prospects, or top 15 overall prospects, and they are still on the board. I think the current starting quarterback on the Eagles is only a 68, 69 overall, so you would highly expect them to take a quarterback, but they do not. They go center Josh Jackson out of Missouri, as that glaring hole at quarterback will stay. So I think the Eagles are set for a big step back next season. You might see that the Cowboys secure the division title, maybe even the Giants or Commanders sneak up. So the Kansas City Chiefs, the team we took down in Super Bowl 63, where are they going to go? As they go center as well. So they select Cole Davidson, which now puts us on the clock at pick 32. The board has pretty much fallen exactly into place as we were expecting. Matt Minor is our top prospect, and we'll take a look again at our board. We also have Boss there, Joey Boss, who I think is a very good candidate to select in the mid-second round range if we were to trade down. Still have Stephen Colvin here, quarterback, and Kenny Weaver, both guys out of Texas. We have one TCU, one from Houston. Some pass rushers here, Kevin Costa from UW, Broderick Foster, 2 guys who have now slipped into the second round. CJ Stanley, we scouted him luckily because he was very high on our board, came back as around 3 to 4 talent grade. And now as we go down the board a little bit, Junior Washington, our highest rated favorited player, and we also have Roman Saunders a couple spots below him, and also Matt Minor at 46. And then we also have Joey Bost, who's not even in the top 50. He's all the way down at 66. So I think we definitely could be in a spot to trade down here. We are going to look at our offers and see if we have a package that is worth our while, trying to trade down maybe 10 to 15 spots and get a second and more in return if we can. So the Bears here, the first offer, just moving down 5 spots. We get a 7th round pick next year. Certainly not worth it. Cincinnati will give us a 1 and a 3 next year, a 5 this year, but we need more of an immediate pick. We definitely like carrying first round picks into next year, but in this instance, we need more of an immediate trade down. And we're not really getting that from any of these offers. A lot of future ones which we typically would be interested in, but we have our eye on a specific player. So trying to trade down like 10 to 15 spots, as we said, would be a down 11 here. Or I'm sorry, 9 with the Seahawks, but only get a 6 in return. Not really worth it. With New Orleans, we'd move down 10 and get just a 5. I was hoping for at least a 3 and a 4 along with a second round pick. The Raiders wanted to give us 5 picks in return, but we need something more immediate, as we've been stressing. And it looks like we're not going to get that. The Giants, we'd move down 36, get a second for next year, 2 7s this year, not worth it. Atlanta, we would trade down 19 And we would also get a 3rd round pick and a 7th round pick. So that might be the best offer we've seen so far. Philadelphia, of course, they want to try and trade up, you would think, for a quarterback. Miami trading down 6. We'd only get a 7, so not really worth it. None of these trade downs are really worth it. But you go down 18 with the Los Angeles, get a 3rd for next year and a 5th this year. But I think that Falcons offer beats that. That'd be 51, 83, and 201. And actually the Chargers offer might be a little bit better, but we're not really looking to carry picks into next year, especially because this upcoming year 6 season, more than likely our final season of this franchise with the new Madden game looming. We are going to get a fresh expansion franchise going, so stay tuned for that. But the Falcons offer, I mean, it's not terrible, it's not ideal, but moving down 19, I think we'll still be in a spot where we can select Matt Minor or Joey Bast. It gives us an extra 3rd round pick and an extra 7, which would give us 4 7th round picks. So even if we see Matt Minor go off the board, we'd be in a spot where we can work a trade up with plenty of draft capital from here on out, plenty of ammo to maybe work a trade up the board. So we're going to go ahead and take 51, 83, and 201 from Atlanta in exchange for 32. Not the best value, but I think it very much plays into our strategy in this year's draft and will give us more opportunities to do what we want to do. So the Falcons trading up to 32nd overall. They've already gone offensive tackle at 19. And now here, 13 picks later, we'll see who they go with. As the Tennessee Titans now back on the clock to start the 2nd round. They go Casey Johnson, a cornerback out of Rutgers. And that was, what, like 8 to 10 cornerbacks selected in that 1st round. A player we did like. He had a draft story on him, but just wasn't really realistic for us. We didn't really need a cornerback at this stage of the draft. So we will pick up the pace. We're looking out for Matt Minor and some of those tight ends to see where they go off the board. The Titans here to start the round. They go Jeff Blackwell, defensive tackle out of LSU. The Raiders, after going quarterback in the 1st round here, they're going to go now Jonathan Bayer, cornerback. And now the Carolina Panthers are on the clock here at 35. And they go CJ Stanley. He was 20th overall on the overall board, but he fell a lot after grading him. He came back as around, 3 to 4 round talent grade, so a big fall off for him. Now the New York Giants at 36 overall go Matt Minor, so that now really puts us in a spot where we gotta try and trade up the board because we cannot risk Joey Bast getting selected at this spot, even though he's quite down the board by a good margin. You know, he's not even in consideration until 66 on the overall board, and we're now here at pick, what was it, 39? I'm sorry, 37. So I think we definitely want to try and work a trade up. We'll sim a few more picks just to try and make it not as much of a trade up. The Bears go wide receiver. The Dolphins go strong safety there. Kerry Stark, I want to say that's the top safety now selected in this year's class. The New England Patriots are going to go Broderick Foster. He slipped all the way down, was this projected top 20 pick, I believe. And Broderick Foster, their pass rusher out of Missouri, they're a good value pick to the New England Patriots. And now the Washington Commanders. We are going to pause it here at pick 40, and we're going to see what it takes to trade up. I mean, all those tight ends are still on the board as well. We still have Junior Washington, Roman Saunders, these top quarterbacks, some defensive players who are projected to go a little bit higher but have slipped. And even though there's a good amount of players above Joey Bast, I'm just getting really worried that we're going to miss out on him as we're, 11 picks away. So I mean, we'll roll the dice a little bit more as Washington goes Kevin Costa at 40th overall. Now the Seattle Seahawks. I think we'll sim these next 3 and then try and work a trade up maybe with Tampa Bay. Seattle goes D tackle. The Saints go edge defender there in Trevante Truman. Now the Detroit Lions go defensive tackle Clayton Johnson out of Wisconsin. And we're now 7 picks away from selecting. Let's see if we can work a trade up here with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We're even going to try and work a trade up without giving up 51. We'll see if that's possible here as we're going to try and trade up now for pick 44. We now have 2 third-round picks. We'll start with 74. And what if we throw in a 7th rounder? How close will that get us? And not very close. So it's a 30-pick drop-off now. So we might actually have to make it pick 51 and then maybe throw in a 6 or a 7. And yeah, they're not looking like they're interested in trading down. So what if we make it 51? We'll throw in one of those 7s, the earliest one that we have, as that got into the yellow at least. So we'll make it 192, 214 along with 51. And that is still not really moving the needle. What if we make it pick 160? We'll throw in 160 for a 7-spot move down. Still not worth it for him. And I mean, it's only 7 selections, so I really don't think we should be giving up all that much. What if we make it 206, 214, that 5, and that 2? And it's still not quite doing it. So I think we'll take our chances a little bit further here. And I'm definitely nervous, but the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going Marlon Rogers. So they do go offensive guard, but not the guy we were eyeing up. And now the Jacksonville Jaguars are on the clock, and I'm just super worried that they're going to take a guard here. So let's try it again here. I wonder if the valuation will be any different, even though it's only a 1-pick difference. So let's pick 45 now. What about 151 for a 6-spot move down? And I don't want to throw too many picks on the table, even though we really need Joey Bost as they go Jonathan Dotson. So what, 5 more picks until we're up. The Jets go Braylon Spence. The top running back finally goes off the board as the Pittsburgh Steelers are now on the clock. And they go Stephen Colvin. So another quarterback finally off the board. They did sign Darren Anderson from Vegas in free agency, but going to bring in a little bit more competition, as Colvin was a top 10 rated prospect, and he slips all the way down to 47, which now brings up the Denver Broncos. 3 selections until we're on the clock. I guess we'll continue to roll the dice, although San Francisco is on deck, and I just have a feeling, a bad feeling, when they're on the clock. But the Denver Broncos go Andrew Hayes, defensive end, and now with just 2 more picks before we're on the clock, we'll just let it ride now at this point, as the 49ers go Jeff Hampton. And now the Chargers at pick 50, they are going to go Kenny Weaver. The other quarterback here does make it into the top 50. So we had all 3 first-round projected quarterbacks now finally off the board. And I'm not sure what the Eagles are going to do, because they definitely missed out. Like I said, their current starting quarterback is not very good. But we're now finally in a position where we can make a selection. And I'm quite amazed at the fact that Junior Washington and Roman Saunders are both still on the board. I'm very tempted by one or even both of them, but we just have too glaring of a need at right guard on our offensive line. So Joey Bost has to be the guy here. 6'5", 316, 22 years old out of Ole Miss, and I'm kind of dumbfounded that we were able to trade down and still get our guy without a trade up. We would have picked him at 32 more than likely, but we trade down, we get an extra 3rd round pick, an extra 7, and we get him much later in the draft here. A, awareness and impact block. B, for pass block and run block, the fastest 40-yard dash of any left guard, and was top 3 in every category except the bench press, where he did post a respectable 33 reps. A bunch of A's across the board there. C for run block power and pass block power, but otherwise a very well-rounded offensive lineman with no clear blemishes as Joey Bost. Welcome to Salt Lake City, as the reigning Super Bowl champions finally make a selection here all the way down at 51. And this is the first year where we didn't make a first-round selection. We actually selected multiple first-rounders in, 3 out of the 4 drafts up to this one. And now that's Joey Bost, going to more than likely be the Week 1 starter at right guard, barring injury. And we do get a good pick there in True Valley, who is ranked 40th. We get him at 51. Scouting report: handles finesse moves with ease, excels in the run game, and he shines brightest on inside and outside zone runs. And he is a hidden development, folks, so you always love to see that. Very, worst case, he's going to be a star development guy. 85 strength, 70 speed, 78 jumping, 73 agility with 81 acceleration, and the traits looking very good to start. So Joey Bost looking to be a very good pick there at number 51. As now the Dallas Cowboys are on the clock. So our next selection now is at 74, and I mean, we're going to continue to monitor this tight end situation. We have 74 and 83, and I wouldn't mind drafting a tight end with both of those selections. I wouldn't even mind trading up to get maybe Junior Washington, depending on how much further he may continue to slip. Cowboys go wide receiver Matt Allen there out of Georgia. The Cleveland Browns at a cornerback there, Clay McLaughlin. And now the Green Bay Packers go right end Aaron Weber out of Florida. He was on our board. And now at 55, the Colts are going to select Junior Washington. So finally, we see a tight end go off the board. I think Washington is going to be a very good player as he ends up there with Indianapolis Colts. And now the Cincinnati Bengals back on the clock here in their home city as they go Rashawn Bowers, free safety. And now the Buffalo Bills go Corbin Samuels. He wasn't on our watch list, although he was fully graded out, came back as around 1 to 2 talent grade, so it looks like the Bills got themselves good value here at the end of this 2nd round. The Minnesota Vikings go Carlos Childers, and he too had a round 1 to 2 talent grade, 6'3", 352 out of Florida. The Vikings got themselves a gap eater there on the interior. Now the Rams, after selecting our top-rated prospect, Trey Hurst, in the second round, they now go Gabe Shelton, a wide receiver, which puts the Baltimore Ravens now on the clock as they select Emmett Porter, linebacker out of the University of Central Florida. He was our favorite linebacker in this draft, and I want to say the top off-ball guy selected to this stage, as now the Houston Texans are up. And I figured they were going to go Roman Saunders, tight end out of Boston College, highly rated. Most of the way was the top tight end throughout the draft process, but he was surpassed by Junior Washington in the late stages after Saunders showed up a little bit overweight at the combine. And now the Eagles missing out on the top 3 quarterback prospects. They're going to be in a deep hole unless they make a trade here. Following the draft here at 62, they select Stanley Beckham, a defensive end, and now the Chiefs, the AFC champions, they select Darrell Capers, wide receiver. Now to close out the second round, the Jacksonville Jaguars hold our pick after we traded for Trayvon Walker. They are going to select, it will take a second to pop here up here on the top right, and they go with Trey Brown, linebacker out of Louisville, as now the third round is set to commence. Before we keep it going, though, we will take another look here at our draft board. The top available player right now, Devontae Smith out of Alabama, not to be mistaken for the Devontae Smith that wide receiver on the Eagles. We have another Devontae Smith here from Alabama, but this one is safety. We have another safety here, James Peterson out of Wisconsin. A bunch of wide receivers up here, a few more safeties, but other than that, we have Lionel Smith. He is on our watch list. We have Justice James, another pass coverage linebacker we could maybe opt for after missing out on Emmett Porter, who was selected a few selections ago. Jamie Taylor, the dynamic corner here out of Michigan, could also play some safety. J.R. Copeland, tight end out of Notre Dame. But Roosevelt Howell is definitely the guy at this point, and he's way down the board. 101 on the overall board, came back as around 1 or 2 talent, and our next selection here is at 74, so not far to go. And he's definitely going to be the guy, assuming he is still on the board. So the Titans kicking it off here as they do go Devontae Smith to start this third round of the Raiders. They go Randy Roth, safety out of Clemson. We might start to see a run on safeties at this point. The Carolina Panthers go Brian Fletcher, as again another safety off the board. Justice James there goes to the Giants. They've had a very good draft, I feel like, so far. I forget who they got in the last round, but it was someone we were eyeing up. Oh, it was that guard, Matt Minor. And now they go Justice James to start the third round. Now at pick 69 are the Chicago Bears. They go Ben Russell, another safety. At pick 70, the Miami Dolphins again go safety. So 5 out of the 6 picks so far to start the third round have been safeties. The Patriots, they go right guard Terrell Blue out of Michigan. Washington at 72 go J.R. Copeland, one of the tight ends we were eyeing up. So now the Seattle Seahawks on the clock. And they go Todd Duncan, left guard. So we will take a look at the trade packages we get. We also have pick 83, so we're up again here very shortly as the Bears offering a little package. Cincinnati will give us a second-round pick next year. That is tempting. The Bills, Broncos, Browns all will do the same. The Bucs will give us a 3 and a 6 next year to trade down like 34 spots, I believe that was. Some more future seconds, some more future pick packages. But I think Roosevelt Howell is just too good to pass up. Although I say that now I look at this offer from the Jets. Just to trade down 4 spots, they'll give us a 6th-round pick a couple years down the road, which I honestly would not mind taking. But is it worth the risk of missing out on Roosevelt Howell? I think if Copeland was still on the board, we might consider it. But I don't want to miss out on our guy. We already got Joey Bost. And now I want to ensure that we get Roosevelt Howell because I think he's going to be an absolute stud. And only time will tell, but I think he was the 7th ranked tight end on this board. A very deep tight end class, obviously, but 6'6", 275. I just can't get over how tantalizing and imposing he is. Not to mention how athletic and how traitsy he is. He has all the traits, all the skills, and all the athletic tools. So Roosevelt Howell, welcome to Salt Lake City. Our second selection now of this reigning Super Bowl class as we continue to lay down the foundation of this team. Roosevelt Howell, the tight end out of Ohio State, and we have very high hopes for him. I think he was my favorite overall prospect in the entire draft class, as he's there with the Snowhawks cap for the first time, and he's going to learn under Mark Andrews for a season before jumping into the starting role, and a very good pick. Look at that. 26th in true value. We got him at 74, pretty much a 50 pick swing there. He played college basketball there at the Ohio State University for 2 years, soft, reliable hands, and he's unbothered by defenders when catching passes. And if you know anything about tight ends, you know the ones who played basketball are the best. Only normal development though, which I wasn't expecting. I had a little bit higher hopes, but I am not going to complain. 83 speed, 78 strength, 81 jumping with 85 acceleration, 84 agility. Very good for a tight end, and all the traits there are in place. So Roosevelt Howell, like I said, gonna learn under the tutelage of Mark Andrews for a season before assuming what you would think to be the starting tight end role going into year 7. And now we will simulate until pick 83, our next selection here, as day 2 is closing down. Christian Woodyard, a linebacker we liked, goes off the board there to Tampa Bay. Jacksonville selects Lionel Smith, who's probably our top overall player on the board at this point. And now the New York Jets go Brian Bartlett, another linebacker we had on our board there. Another guy out of Ohio State. The Pittsburgh Steelers go Shaq Mayweather. That just sounds like a good football player. As the Broncos at 80 go Cody Peterson, a linebacker. 81, our division rival. San Francisco 49ers go D tackle Rayshon Hemsley. And now the pick before us, the Los Angeles Chargers go Alex Rafano, a guard. So let's revisit our draft board. I mean, we really just needed a guard and a tight end in this class. That was the priority, and we got that. And we still have 9 picks at our disposal, so we have a lot of toys to play with, I guess I should say. I mean, I would even explore some player trades, just trading some of these picks for some players straight up. But I mean, we have all these picks at our disposal, so we might as well use some of them. And we have Jamie Taylor here. I mean, like I said earlier, he did not test at the combine, but at his pro day, a 4.4 flat, the most bench press reps of any corner among pro days with 16, a decent vertical jump, and other athletics are decent as well. C, block shed, B for press, A, hit power, B, zone coverage. So I think he definitely has some safety traits, and we really don't have any defensive backs on our board, you know, throughout the rest of the draft. We do have an undrafted guy that we have very high as a guy we might even select in the 5th or 6th round, as we now have just a bunch of day 3 guys really on our overall board. Jamie Taylor is our last remaining day 2 projection, and then after that it all falls to day 3 guys. Justin Rogers I really like. He might be our next pick because, as I've been stressing, I would like to draft multiple tight ends from this class. And along with Roosevelt Howell, he was another one of my guys I really liked at 6'5", 252. A linebacker, Demarius Mackey out of Colorado. LaRon Brown, we would like to draft a D tackle. Cam Graham, the top FCS defender from this past season. And a few running backs I really like as well. Sterling Pryor just stole the combine. 6 foot, 231, going to be a dynamic running back. I think maybe one of the biggest steals from this draft class. And then as we just fall here into day 3, we have Calvin Hoover and Jerry Hardison, who I think we're definitely going to end up selecting in this draft. Look at that 4.24 speed, just short of a 40-inch vertical jump, with the best 3-cone averaging at 6.5 seconds and the top 20-yard shuttle in this class. So Jamie Taylor might be the guy here. I really like Justin Rogers as well, but if we go over to the tight end position, we still have a few more guys on our board that we like, a couple guys ahead of him as well, but we might even be in a position where we explore a trade down, I guess, as we'll see if we can maybe collect a few more mid-round picks. Or maybe we should just be in a spot where we start trading up and getting some of these guys. So right now we're at 83. The Bengals will trade up 5 spots to give us a 5 and a 6 in the future, which I would take that right now, actually. I'm not trying to trade down too far, but if we can get some extra picks, I'm all for that. We would trade down with Tampa Bay a little bit too far for my liking. Here with Houston, we'd trade down 10 spots to get 157 as well, which I do think is a better offer than that Cincinnati trade. We would go down 5, get a future 5 and 6, but here with Houston, we'd go down 10 and get a 5 for this year. So I do like that offer a little bit better. As we keep going down the board here, just a lot of future packages that we're not really going to entertain. Not ever going to trade with the Rams, so we're not even looking at that. Packers trading down 3, they'll give us a 6, but we're going to go ahead and take that Houston Texans package. I think that gives us our most bang for our buck, gives us more picks where we can trade up, because at this spot, I mean, we're not overwhelmingly in love with Jamie Taylor. If he does happen to slip a few more picks here as we trade down 10, then he might be the guy, but otherwise I think we're comfortable selecting tight end Justin Rogers as we complete now our second trade in this draft. I believe 2nd or 3rd, I kind of lost track at this point, but we trade down 10 spots now with Houston as they go Joey Claxton, just the 2nd running back now, I believe, selected in this draft so far. Dallas goes Justin Rogers, our tight end we were going for. I thought he would make it to 93, but I guess I got too greedy. You hate to see that. Demarius Mackey, that linebacker that was on our board. Marco Jones, free safety, goes off the board. Indianapolis goes Jamie Taylor, and I did kind of figure he was going to go off the board, but I thought we would at least get Justin Rogers, as Martin Sullivan, another guy on our board, gets selected there by the Cincinnati Bengals. And at this point, I'm kind of regretting. I think we maybe should have just selected Rogers at that point. Another tight end off the board there, Josh Griffin. The Rams go George Tomlinson, a corner. And the Baltimore Ravens go running back Marcus Dyson, who ran, I think, a 4.38. Very fast, the second fastest 40-yard dash of any running back. And now on the clock here at 93 after missing out on some targets here, as we now have to reassess. And the Ron Brown might be our best bet at adding a defensive tackle in this class. We don't really have any more on the board besides Justin Clinton towards the end of day 3, maybe some undrafted guys. We're back up in about 35 selections there in the 4th round, but I think we might try and work a trade up for one of these running backs. So we're going to go ahead and select LaRon Brown, I believe. We'll compare him and Cam Graham real quick, but Brown, A for finesse move, C block shed, so he's more of a third down guy, which we could use a pass rush specialist. So LeBron Brown, a dynamic athlete, very good speed rusher with the awareness, play rec, pursuit, and impact block to match. So the more I look at LeBron Brown, the more I like him, despite just around 3 to 4 talent grade, which does match his projection. As I said, we were in the market to add a defensive tackle, so we're going to go ahead and draft LeBron Brown. They're at 93rd overall, D tackle, I think it was, out of Alabama. Our 3rd selection now in this 2029 NFL draft, our 2nd here in the 3rd round. And we have 1 4th round selection, we have 3 5th round selections, 1 in the 6th round, and 4 in the 7th round. So we are not done yet, folks. I love these late picks, drafting the depth guys, seeing if any come back with hidden development. Just, the foundation matters at every point of the roster as Brown comes back 115 in true value. So we did reach on him a little bit, but the scouting report, muscular frame with explosive power. Most pass rush wins come from finesse moves as expected. That definitely showed on the scouting report. And then good awareness and reaction as a defender, comes back with normal dev, but 89 strength at 74 speed is a good combination to work with, especially for a speed rusher. And he is going to compete probably for our 3rd or 4th defensive tackle spot on the depth chart as a rookie, which now brings on the Philadelphia Eagles at 94 overall. And they go Devin Taylor, a tight end out of Michigan, I believe. He had a poor draft story on him, and correction, that's Oklahoma. And I am still upset we missed out on Justin Rogers. We should have just took him at 83, but you live and you learn. The Chiefs go Jonathan Cooks, D tackle out of Vanderbilt. Now to close out the 3rd round, the Green Bay Packers are going to select, and it's going to be Bobby McCree, as they held our 3rd round pick after he traded up with them in last year's draft. So we are now here on day 3 of the 2029 NFL draft. We started out by trading out of 32. We've traded all the way down to 51 and still got our guy in Joey Bost, guard out of Ole Miss, who came back with hidden development. We then selected Roosevelt Howell, our favorite tight end in the class, probably going to be like a 75, 76 overall, I'm expecting, despite being just normal development. And then we just selected the Ron Brown there at the end of the 3rd round. So we're not on the clock now until 128. So 32 picks away. We got to wait until our final spot, unless we do work a trade up, which is very much possible right now. So we still have 9 selections, folks. So buckle up, get your popcorn. We are not done yet as we enter the 4th round here. Our top prospect on the overall board is Cam Graham. As we said, the Buck Buchanan Award winner with 12.5 sacks last year, 18 tackles for loss at Penn, 4.84 40-yard dash, 23 bench press reps. And even though he's an outside linebacker, we would put him at D end in our scheme, as he came back with B block shed, B power move, B hit power. So he definitely fits that skill set well. Not sure what the finesse move is going to be, but not the best, athlete, but I think football player. He definitely fits that profile, as he rose up the board a lot following the season in the Senior Bowl and also at the Combine and workouts. Max Allen, a linebacker we really like out of Colorado State, a pursuit, ran a 4.54 with good bench press, good 3-cone, and 20-yard shuttle, has a pursuit hit power, but not going to get off blocks, rushing the passer with F for finesse move and power move, but someone who can run around the field, hit the ball carrier, and take good angles against the running game. And then after that, a pretty big drop off between players that are on our board. He's at 120, and then we also have Cordell Patterson here at 130, at 136. Darquez Godwin, Sterling Pryor at 138, which actually is 10 spots below our current pick at 128. And we really, really like Sterling Pryor, so we're going to sim ahead a little bit. I mean, we maybe could work a trade up for Cam Graham. We're not that much in love with him, but we have so many picks that it really wouldn't hurt at this point to trade up. as the Raiders go D tackle at 99. The Patriots go wide receiver at 100. Daquan Tyson, a running back there to the New York Giants. Ronald Arthur, wide receiver out of Georgia, I believe, there to Chicago. And Max Allen, that linebacker we were just talking about, off the board at 102 to the Miami Dolphins. As the Patriots, another pick here early in the 4th round, they go corner. And then J.J. Thurston there at 104 to Washington. And I'm not super sold on a trade up for Cam Graham, even though I love the name, I love his story. And we're not going to trade with Seattle, so we will sim that pick. They go wide receiver. Tennessee is going to go wide receiver as well. We might see a run on wide receivers at this point, as DJ Hawkins off the board there to the Detroit Lions. Someone we did pay attention to during the process. And now Tampa Bay goes Sterling Pryor, our running back. We were just about to pause and, look at some trade-up opportunities now. Dwayne Gordon is going to have to be the guy if we go running back, and he's way down, buried down the board, and I'm very upset we missed out on Sterling Pryor, but we wanted Dwayne Gordon as well, so that kind of makes our decision easier. And Dwayne Gordon is not even on this list. He's not even, up in the top 50 right now. So we might be good on waiting for Dwayne Gordon. We say that, but that's usually not the case. As we'll sim now to Denver. Another running back does go off the board. So from 128 to 114, we'll sim to the Chargers pick. And now we'll see if we can work a trade up with LA. The 49ers went wide receiver John Bell, someone we actually had very deep on our board for day 3. So at this point, you don't know what is going to happen. There's really no tell of what to expect. They can dig deep on your day 3 guys or pick from guys who are at the top of the board right now. But at this point, we want to try and take matters into our own hands. We're going to try and get pick 114 from the Chargers. So we'll try 151, 162. And 206 here. 3 picks for 114. And we're going to have to do a little bit better than that. So I think we probably will just have to include 128. So to move up 14 at this vicinity of the draft, we'll just a 7th round throw and get it done. Not quite. It might have to be 201, that early 7th round pick. And that's not even close either. What about a 6 and a 7? Just to move down 14. Move up 14. And that almost gets it done, but not quite. So, I don't really want to push it much further. Even though we do have all these picks at our disposal, I do want to save some for the undrafted free agent guys. I really do like drafting some of our high-quality undrafted guys that we kind of discover through scouting. As the Falcons go Kyle Hedgecock, he was a tight end I thought might be available a little bit later. So it looks like we're not going to be able to draft 2 tight ends like we were hoping for, as the Falcons go Hedgecock, the 2nd Notre Dame tight end now selected in this draft. And we'll pause it again here with Cleveland. So this will be an 11-spot trade up. I would hope that just, a 7th round pick would be enough here in the 4th round to move up just 11 selections. We go pick 206, but probably not going to be quite enough. A little bit closer than I was expecting, though. 206 and 214 to move up 11, not quite. I think if we do 201 and 214, that might be enough, and it is not. What about 201 and 206? And we'll see if that gets the job done. Still not doing it, so it might have to be a 4 and I think 192, and it is still not doing it. These teams are just super tough to trade with, even though we have all the perks too on our coaching. And we finally get it done here. So we trade up a few spots with Cleveland. And it's really just a matter of, do we want to select Cam Graham or do we want to select Dwayne Gordon, the running back? As I believe those are probably our top 2 guys on our watch list at this point, as that is the case. So Cam Graham, we already looked at him, but Dwayne Gordon at 5'10", 234. We do have a pretty deep backfield at this point, although we have our top 2 probably coming off their contracts after the season. But Dwayne Gordon at 230 pounds, still ran a 4.4 with 30 bench press reps. The rest of the testing wasn't all that great, but the traits are definitely all there. He's very well rounded, can beat you with power, can beat you with speed, can be elusive. So I think Dwayne Gordon is the total package. I love that he comes out of South Dakota State, and I do just have a really good feeling here about Dwayne Gordon. So we will select him, even though running back not necessarily a huge need. I just think he's a very good weapon, and I really like the upside as well. So Dwayne Gordon here in the 4th round. Now I think our 4th selection of this draft. We have done a little bit, moving up and down the board. Missed out on a few guys. I wish we had played it a little bit more aggressively in the opening rounds or the second or third round, as Dwayne Gordon comes back at 121 in true value. We drafted him at 117, so pretty much where he needed to be. Scouting report is shifty in the open field, drops his pads and plows through early arm tacklers, and he's a hard-nosed runner. And he comes back with 82 strength at the running back position, 91 speed, 88 acceleration and agility. So an athletic specimen who moves well, and he has very good traits to boot. So I really like the pick here in Dwayne Gordon, despite it not being the biggest need. We did trade up a little bit for him, but I think he's going to be a very good player. As we now close out round 4, we'll just sim in hyper speed now, and really just looking for Cam Graham. If he makes it to the 5th round, maybe we'll try and work a trade up for him. Another quarterback finally off the board there at 122. That's Chas Peterson to the Minnesota Vikings out of Arkansas. The Rams go running back. The Ravens go wide receiver Terrence Cousins, someone we did have on our watch list. And now the Eagles on the clock here at 126. They go Cordell Patterson, linebacker that was on our board. And now to close out the 4th round, the Cleveland Browns are going to select Eli Mooney, a quarterback out of Grambling State, as the Cincinnati Bengals are going to get us going here to start the 5th round. As they go cornerback, now the Raiders on the clock. They go Romeo Perkins, as we're now 130 picks through this 2029 NFL draft. And we have 3 picks here towards the end. We have 151, 157, and 160. So I think we're now in the range where we can start looking at some of our undrafted guys, because I definitely do not want to miss out on Jerry Hardison. I think Calvin Hoover is going to be a very good player. So with 6 picks still left, maybe we could look to trade up for Cam Graham and then look at our undrafted guys. But we'll move it along a little bit more before we maybe look at one last trade up. Lance Anderson goes to the Jags. He was on our board out of Florida State. They're going to stay in state with the Jags. The Dolphins at 134 go defensive end. Now the Patriots at 135 go tight end. And at this point, we'll just sim ahead to our pick. We're taking way too much time as we go to the next user pick. And I don't see Cam Graham, so it looks like he's still on the board. We did have a few players off our draft board, though, get selected. We had Quay Bennett to the Lions at 139. George Diggs, corner to the Steelers at 143. Britton Mooney at 140 to the Buccaneers, but I am surprised to see that Cam Graham is still on the board. I mean, like I said, I don't expect too much from him, but I really like the story. He was super productive at his college during his college career and came on super strong in the offseason. So 6'6", 263 out of Penn. Cam Graham is going to be the selection here at 151 in the 5th round of this 2029 NFL draft. We have 2 more picks coming up here shortly, and those are probably going to be undrafted free agent targets. As now our 5th selection in this class going to come by way of edge defender, and that's Cam Graham, the reigning Buck Buchanan Award winner as the top FCS defender. And it's a very bad pick. He was 297 in true value. We drafted him at 151. Former high school power forward, possesses menacing bull rush, and instincts will need to make up for lack of speed, as he has 77 strength, 78 speed, and does not look to be a good pick. But we threw a dart. We thought he might have good development just because he had a draft story on him, but that just goes to show that does not always equate to high development. So Will Douglas, one of our undrafted free agent targets at quarterback, off the board there to the Bengals, as those guys are going to start going. And there's Calvin Hoover, who we probably would have taken at 157, and he goes to the Buffalo Bills, and that is just devastating. And now here at 157, I think I know who we're going to go with, but we do have to revisit our board before we start really wrapping things up with only a few more picks set in this year's draft. Most of them, they're in the 7th round. So a couple more tight ends that we were looking at here. We have Jonathan Wilcox here out of Clemson, B for catching deep route, C for run block, ran a 4.62 at the combine, which says to be the fastest, but I guess it only goes by players who are still on the draft board. That's something I'm just realizing, because a 4.62 definitely was not the fastest 40-yard dash. B for medium route, catching deep route, not going to offer anything as a pass blocker, decent as a run blocker, and as a vertical threat, I think you would take that. We also have Alan Cummings here, and we have George Salt, another tight end that we kind of like as an undrafted guy. Kenny Beekman, safety out of Georgia. We have not yet selected a defensive back, if I'm not mistaken. Ran a 4.36 at his pro day. Decent numbers otherwise with B for pursuit, but the traits are not really that great despite the good athleticism. But I'm not even going to take a chance. I want to take Jerry Hardison here. The traits aren't all that great, but could pose to be a tremendous deep threat with B deep route. I think he had B or A spec catch, but that 4.24 speed is just off the charts. The fastest receiver, maybe the fastest player, I want to say, in this entire class with that vertical jump, just under 40 inches, the top 3 cone, and the top 20-yard shuttle. So even if he's not a complete receiver, which I don't expect him to be with F for release, F for medium route, the hands aren't all that great, but a burner who can maybe take the top off the defense, and definitely an Olympian, you would think, with those athletic numbers. So we're going to take a chance here on an undrafted free agent and Jerry Hardison, receiver out of Georgia, with that 4.24 speed. And even though we do have some good return men already on the roster, I mean, you can't have too many playmakers, as we'll get the results here on Jerry Hardison with now, I want to say, just 4 more selections left in this class, assuming we keep them all. And a very good pick there. Hardison was ranked 75th in true value. We drafted him at 157, so almost 100 picks ahead of where he was projected. Elite top end speed, tracks and secures ball with defenders closing in, and he comes down with the toughest catches, and he comes back with 99 speed, 99 change of direction, 99 agility, and 97 acceleration. What did I say? This dude is an Olympian, maybe the best athlete already in all of football before he even takes a step on the field. And I'm very intrigued to see what his returns rating is going to be, because he maybe has the potential to be one of the best if his athletic traits are any indication. So what a pick there. I love when those undrafted free agent selections just pan out. It just goes to show you know a thing or two. Although, I mean, not all of our picks, though, have been that great. Just, back a few. That Cam Graham selection was a huge reach, as the Eagles go Chuck Burgess. The Chiefs go offensive tackle, as we're now back on the clock here to close out the 5th round. Is this the first time we're going to close out a round, with our final selection that we earned winning the Super Bowl? And just looking at the overall board here, really no one that we're head over heels for. I mean, that tight end is kind of speaking to me here, Jonathan Wilcox, but we do have George Shaw, someone we can maybe take in the 7th round. And we just have no more defensive backs. So I think by default, we're going to have to select Kenny Beekman here out of Georgia. I would like to even go quarterback, but we already have 3 on the roster that we trust. So no need to force an undrafted guy at this spot. But Kenny Beekman, C hit power, D for man and tackle, the zone C to F. But we're really not drafting him for traits, more so just because he's a decent athlete. And our options in the secondary are pretty much nil in this year's draft. We didn't pour many resources into that area. So Kenny Beekman is going to be our final 5th round selection, the 3rd of 3 in the 2029 NFL draft, as that now concludes the 5th round, and we're down to now just the final 64 picks. We don't even have a 6th round pick. We traded that away, so we're going to send the entirety of the 6th round and then just pick it up in the 7th round, where we're going to have 3 picks, and we'll see if we can hit on those. But Beekman, I mean, it says average pick, but again, another reach, not a burner, but decent speed, shows good instincts, and won't deliver bone-crushing hits. Comes back with 91 speed, decent with 87 acceleration and agility. And like I said, really didn't draft him for the skills, and he's more than likely going to be a practice squad guy for his first 2 seasons, but just wanted to get another defensive back on the roster. And again, at this point, we are just going to draft the entirety of the 6th round, because we don't even have a 6th round pick. And then we'll try and work through our trio of 7th round picks very quickly, as now the Tennessee Titans on the clock here. Pick 193 here to start the 7th round. Now let's go back to our draft board. It's probably cleared out by now, although we do have a few guys still left on it. I mean, Alan Cummings, another tight end at 6'5", 264. B for catching traffic and catching, D for deep route, C for run block. Ran a 4.69, 4.63 at his pro day. I mean, the testing is not off the charts, but not terrible. I mean, for a 7th round guy, the traits look pretty good. At least the skills, I mean. So I do like Cummings, and there aren't really any other tight ends. I mean, even George Shaw, the undrafted guy we were looking at, went off the board. So I wouldn't even be opposed to a trade up here for that tight end. I mean, looking at all these undrafted guys, we still have those quarterbacks on the board, but otherwise I'm not really in love with any of these remaining undrafted free agents, not to draft them at least. Would love to bring them in the preseason, though, see if they can earn a roster spot, maybe a practice squad spot. So let's see if we can work a one last trade up here for that tight end. I mean, I can't imagine it would require much. Who was on the clock right now? I think it was the Raiders. But I do want to keep Mr. Irrelevant, so can we just give him 2 7s, I guess, to move up 7 spots? They'll get 2 7s. I think that's a very good deal for them. I don't even really mind giving up that extra 7 because we get our guy here. We didn't have any other UDFAs that we're really in love with. So we are going to actually fulfill our destiny of drafting 2 tight ends in this year's class. We knew Howell was going to be the guy, but we were really hoping for Justin Rogers. But we'll take the consolation prize here in Alan Cummings, tight end out of North Texas, as we now have one final selection, which is going to be the final pick in the 2029 NFL Draft. That'll come at 224 overall as another selection made. And I think this might be the first year we didn't acquire future picks, but maybe by design, knowing that this might be the last season, more than likely going to be the last season of this franchise. And Cummings was ranked 219. We drafted him at 194, so not a huge reach. At this point, it's kind of a crapshoot. Most, if not all, these players now are kind of tiered pretty similarly, but Cummings has soft hands, unbothered by defenders when catching passes, and intermediate route running is inconsistent. He does come back with hidden development, so this is the second time now, I think, in this franchise where we hit on a 6th or 7th round tight end, and they came back with hidden development. So I'm happy we did make that trade up. 83 speed, the strength though at just 70, not that great, but decent traits, decent skills, like I was saying, for a 7th round guy. And the hands look to be very good. Does offer some blocking ability as well. So Alan Cummings, an early 7th round pick, and I definitely want to say we hit on that. So at this point, we'll now sim to our next user pick, which might be the last draft selection we make in this entire franchise. And how fitting that it comes as Mr. Irrelevant, as we won last year's Super Bowl championship. And we'll take one final look at the draft board here. And we still have a couple receivers here who are projected round 2 to 3 guys. Even a couple round 3 to 4 projections here. A bunch of day 3 guys still on the board. But looking at our favorites, Rashawn Parson is our top guy, wide receiver out of California. But we did draft Jerry Hardison, so not necessarily in need of a wide receiver. We could go fullback here. Charles Porter, 6'3", 253 out of Florida. A for lead block, B for pass block, A for run block. He is just a super imposing blocking fullback, which we really like in our offense. We do have Brandon Davison, but if we can draft a fullback and keep him for 4 years on that rookie contract, I think that's kind of a worthwhile investment, especially when he has such great blocking pedigree. But there's also the German import here, Sebastian Backus, at 6'8", 379 pounds, a mammoth with A impact block, 38 bench press reps, but does not move along the line all that well. Has F for pass block power, F for pass block finesse, so more of just a mauling run blocker, but definitely a fun project as he was trying to put it together there at Oklahoma State. So we are just going to go with that fullback, Charles Porter. I love drafting fullbacks, and I think he's going to be a very, very good one, and he tested decently as well, all things considered. So without further ado, let's announce Charles Porter as Mr. Irrelevant, the fullback out of Florida, and that is going to do it here for the 2029 NFL Draft. Thank you for joining along and watching this. I love the draft process, although it's too bad we didn't get that whole presentation for selecting Charles Porter there. Mr. Irrelevant just kind of cuts out on you. But we are going to take a look at the draft recap. And here you have it, folks. This is our 2029 NFL draft class, or our year 5 NFL draft class, you could also say. And it all started with Joey Bost at 51st overall after we traded down from 32. And he comes in at a 74 overall, the hidden development. And that's more than likely going to go to star, but hopefully he can develop into a superstar down the line. 6'5", 316, so he does occupy some good space there with good size on the interior. 85 strength, 87 lead block, 84 impact block. So those secondary traits are pretty good. Really just have to focus on getting those power traits up and just becoming a more well-rounded blocker. But I think the traits are good to build off of. 70 speed, which is pretty good there for an offensive lineman. So Joey Bost more than likely going to be the week 1 starter at right guard. We also have Seth Rosenthal, a backup center who we drafted in the 2nd round a few years back. And like I said, really just been a backup over the course so far, but maybe he can compete at that right guard spot. But more than likely, going to just go with Joey Bost. Now, in the 2nd round, we went Roosevelt Howell, or actually our 2nd pick, but it was in the 3rd round, was Roosevelt Howell, 6'6", 275, tight end out of Ohio State, was one of our favorite prospects in the entire draft, comes in at a 75 overall. A little bit of a bummer that he wasn't hidden development, but still a high overall, and he can develop into a very nice tight end, I think. At worst, a high-end tight end 2 with 83 speed. Had good strength to go along with that. I think that was at 82 with 81 catching, 85 acceleration, catching traffic at 80, the short route at 75, 57 for pass block, and 67 for run block. So I don't know if Roosevelt Howell came back as good as I was expecting, but still a pretty good overall there in the 3rd round, and he's going to be our tight end 2 behind Mark Andrews this season. Then
Towards the end of the third round, we went LaRon Brown, speed rusher out of Alabama, 6'1", 291, 70 overall speed rusher, but 1 rating point away from being a scheme fit there as a run stopper. 89 strength, 74 speed, good physical traits to build off of with 74 finesse move, 67 block shed, and he's going to vie for our 3rd spot at defensive tackle on the depth chart. Maybe the 4th spot. We have some more established guys that we signed to compete for that spot. Dwayne Gordon, we went in the 4th round. I thought he was going to come out a little bit higher than 69 overall, but at 5'10", 234, you love the 91 speed, good physical traits elsewhere with 82 strength, very good for a running back, 85 stiff arm, 82 trucking, 83 ball carrier vision, and the juke and spin there in the low 80s as well. So a very well-rounded running back with tremendous size and physicality. So I think he's someone that can emerge in a pretty good role down the line. Maybe not so much in his rookie season, but we're definitely going to give him some looks, and we figure he'll be on the 53-man roster. And then Cam Graham proved to be a big reach there in the 5th round. The Buck Buchanan Award winner there from Penn, 65 overall pass rusher after we moved him to left end with 78 speed, 77 strength coming off the edge with 73 power move and block shed. So I think he could probably develop into a decent depth role down the line, but probably going to be on the practice squad this year. And then we hit on Jerry Hardison in the late 5th round, 72 overall playmaker at 5'10", 178 out of Georgia with 99 speed, 99 agility, and 97 acceleration, 85 spec catch, 76 deep route, 77 catch in traffic. Just throw this guy on 9 routes all day and let him take the top off the defense. Also 98 kick returns. So I think Jerry Hardison more than likely going to be a kick return for us, maybe even a punt returner. He might have dual duties just based on that dynamic ability. He has 99 speed and agility, 97 acceleration. What a pick there in the 5th. We trusted our gut. I mean, it wasn't even really our gut. We just looked at his numbers and could tell this dude was a special athlete. Then the last pick there in the 5th round was Kenny Beekman, 66 overall zone archetype there at safety, a teammate of Jerry Hardison, 5'9", 197, 91 speed, and the traits nothing really to write home about. Probably going to end up on the practice squad, much like Cam Graham. And then we had just a few more picks after that, or a couple more picks. 2 here in the 7th round. Alan Cummings, tight end out of North Texas, our 2nd tight end in this draft. A pleasant surprise there. He came back with hidden development, 66 overall possession, vertical threat tight end with 83 speed, 81 catching, and will need some development, but maybe could catch on as our tight end 3 with that hidden development. We'll try and get him some reps and get him progressed along a little bit. And then Mr. Irrelevant, Charles Porter, comes back as a 75 overall fullback, 6'3", 253, just a load leading the way there in the running game with 89 lead block, 81 strength, 74 impact block, 72 run block. You want to get that up a little bit, but the toughness, the physicality is there at the fullback position. So he's going to compete with Brandon Davison, who I actually believe is the highest rated fullback in the league right now at 81 overall, I believe. But I mean, having Charles Porter on that rookie contract for the next 4 years could just be the best long-term play there. But that is our 2029 draft class. Let me know your thoughts. I know we missed out on a few guys. At running back, we probably would have preferred Sterling Pryor. We missed out on that other tight end we were looking at, Justin Rogers out of Alabama. So now we'll go down by team and just look at some of the players we missed out on. So looking at the Steelers class, we'll just go from alphabetical order from the Snowhawks. And they started with a 75 overall corner in the 1st round. You'll take that. Stephen Colvin was the 2nd quarterback taken in this draft, only normal development. So I don't think he's going to be the starter there. Maybe going to compete with Darren Anderson, who they signed in free agency from the Raiders. But otherwise, it looked like Colvin not really living up to that draft status he had prior to the draft, a 71 corner. So they drafted 2 cornerbacks here in the 70s. You'll take that. Also a 3rd corner here in the 5th round, George Diggs. He was on our board, 69 overall out of Baylor. And now for the Texans, Matt Skandrick, a tackle we liked throughout the process, but graded out as around 3 to 4 talent. And he does come back with hidden development at 6'8", 339, the 1st round pick of the Texans, 71 overall. So definitely a lot of development there before he's a legit starter at left tackle in the league, but very high upside. And same story here with Roman Saunders, the 2nd tight end selected in this draft at 73 overall vertical threat, and he does have hidden development, only 78 speed though. He tested well at the combine, a lot better than what 78 speed would indicate, but he did have a draft story on him saying that he showed up overweight, so maybe that forced his ratings down a little bit. 2 running backs in this draft as well for the Texans, only 5 selections total. And then at number 1 overall, we saw the Titans select Nick Freeman, receiver out of Clemson, hidden development, and the traits look very good across the board. Going to pair up nicely there with Roy McBride, a former number 1 overall pick himself. They've had 2 of the 5 over the course of this franchise and went receiver both times. 72 overall D tackle. Jeff Blackwell in the second round. We liked him. They started the third round with Devontae Smith, a 75 overall strong safety, a 73 overall center, and a 70 overall wide receiver. So a very good draft here from Tennessee. All 5 of their first 5 picks, 70 overall, and they had 2 guys at 75 overall or higher. And at the Vikings here, offensive tackle in the first, defensive tackle in the second, Carlos Childers. And he came back with a round 1 to 2 talent grade and even comes back with hidden development, so maybe missed out on him, but we just didn't prioritize defensive tackle that high in the draft. But 97 strength with 67 speed, so at his size, 350 pounds, I think he'll take that size and speed all day, as he looks to be an impact player there for the Vikings. And they selected him in the second round, tight end in the third, quarterback, and really nothing of note after that. But Carlos Childers is a very good pick and a decent offensive tackle there in the first round. Now at the top here, the Chicago Bears went Drew Kavanaugh, 76 overall out of Michigan, a top 5 pick, but only normal development, but he looks to be a high floor type of guy. 74 overall receiver there in the second, 73 overall safety, or 71 overall wide receiver there. Ronald Arthur was previously on our board, but removed him prior to the draft. They also went quarterback there in the 7th round. The Bengals went offensive tackle, free safety, left guard, Martin Sullivan, a 74 overall there in the 3rd. And he was on our board. He comes back hidden development, so the Bengals hit on him. 90 lead block there. A very good trait for Martin Sullivan. A gem there in the 3rd round for Cincinnati. Maybe going to work his way up to a starting role as soon as week 1. They went Will Douglas, a undrafted free agent target we were looking at, but he ended up going in the 5th round here to Cincinnati, maybe going to back up Joe Burrow. And now the Buffalo Bills, a bunch of picks in this class and some good defensive players early on. Their first 3 picks here, 75 overall corner, 74 overall D tackle, and a 75 overall linebacker. And then a bunch of depth picks here down the line. Also went Calvin Hoover here. We were like 3 picks away from drafting him, and he came back with hidden development, so we were definitely onto something here with Calvin Hoover, but the Buffalo Bills beat us to the punch. He was a projected undrafted free agent, went at the end of the 5th round with 91 speed, 94 jumping, 76 zone coverage, and most importantly, hidden development there for the projected UDFA out of Colorado State. A very good pick there by the Buffalo Bills as they sniped us late in the draft. The Denver Broncos went corner in the 1st round, Alonzo Williams, 75 overall out of SMU. Really nothing else of note. Some solid 69, 70 overall players. 74 overall receiver in the 1st round for the Browns. That's Jerry Mickens out of Colorado. Demarius Mackey. And also a lot of picks in this draft for the Cleveland Browns. It looks like they went quarterback at the end of the 4th round there. Eli Mooney out of Grambling State. And really nothing else of note after that. The Buccaneers started with Josh Hurst at 12 overall. Drafted Marlon Rogers, a guard we actually brought in for a pre-draft interview. And he came back a little bit lower than we were expecting. And then they have Christian Woodyard, a linebacker who was on our board, 74 overall out of USC. And Sterling Pryor, that running back we were very high on. And he comes back a 74 overall, 5 points above Dwayne Gordon. And the traits look very, very good. Everything really there in the mid-70s with juke and spin there. But otherwise, everything in the 80s or above. And he might be an impact player from day one. Sterling Pryor going to be a very good running back there for the Buccaneers, as they had a pretty solid draft. The Los Angeles Chargers went offensive tackle, quarterback, Kenny Weaver there, the 3rd quarterback selected, only 70 overall. So a very weak class of quarterbacks, aside from number 2 overall pick, Stephen Cole, so we will see here shortly. Cole Davidson was the 31st overall here for the Kansas City Chiefs, going to be their starting center. They were a musical chairs there at center after losing Creed Humphrey, as we signed him in free agency prior to last season. And really not much else besides that. A lot of quantity in this draft for the Kansas City Chiefs. They even went fullback there in the 7th round. The Colts went Ben Bell and Junior Washington back-to-back, 2 Oregon players to start. Ben Bell was very highly rated, and he does come back with hidden development, so the Colts have themselves a nice offensive tackle there who they can develop. And they also drafted the top tight end in this class, and that's Junior Washington. Hidden development out of Oregon, 84 speed, 83 catching, 90 acceleration, good run blocking already, and I think he's going to be a very good tight end there for Indy. So 2 good picks in this class to start for the Colts. And they also went Jamie Taylor, that cornerback we were looking at. We passed up on him, and he comes back hidden development, so maybe we should have drafted him there in the 3rd round instead of trading down, but that man coverage is very low. But still, there in the 3rd round, you always want to get a guy with hidden development when you can. So you live and you learn a little bit in this year's class, but I still like what we were able to accomplish. The Commanders went Ramon Starks, one of our top prospects in this class. J.R. Copeland, a tight end in the 3rd round at 75 overall. And he was neck and neck there with Roosevelt Howell, but we elected for Howell, and Copeland is the man with hidden development, 84 speed, 85 catching. Not going to provide much as a blocker, but the hands are very good, and he's going to get open and move the chains for your offense. Try and move it along a little bit quicker here. Only a handful left of teams to go through. Justin Rogers, the tight end we missed out on by about 10 picks, and he too comes back with hidden development. So it looks like our tight end we drafted was like the only one not to have hidden development, but the highest overall so far, or at least tied with Copeland at 75. Rogers just a couple ticks behind that, but good athlete, and he has that hidden development, which we missed out on in Roosevelt Howell. And now going here to the Miami Dolphins went Kevin Middleton at 79 overall, the 6th overall pick. And he is the highest rated player in this year's draft, but only normal development, 94 speed at 6'4", and he has good coverage ratings already to start. So a potential lockdown corner there for the Miami Dolphins. And they went defensive back. 3 straight picks to start, also went defense in the 4th and 5th, so their top 5 picks were defensive players. They drafted George Shaw, that tight end undrafted free agent target we were looking at, and he actually comes back with 70 overall. Josh Hurst, a linebacker, undrafted free agent we were looking at, comes back with 67 overall there in the 7th round. The Eagles drafted a 75 overall center, a very good pick there in the 1st round. Had a lot of quantity in this draft along with Cordell Patterson. We had him on our board, just 68 overall though. Now going down to the Falcons, they drafted John McPherson, 78 overall. He was originally like the #1 pick projection in the first 2 mock drafts and fell all the way to, I think it said 19, and he comes back with hidden development. A very good offensive tackle there to pair with Deshaun Monteau, last year's offensive rookie of the year, and they traded up to 32 with us, and they drafted Casey Johnson. We really liked him as well, but just did not need to address corner that early, and as we were expecting, came back with hidden development. 6'3", 188, very good athlete with very good size on the outside, 93 speed, and Casey Johnson, a very good player there for Atlanta, along with John McPherson. So 2 very good 1st-round picks. They added a tight end we liked here in Kyle Hitchcock, and the Falcons may be on the come-up. Actually won the NFC South last year with an 8-9 record. Our division rival San Francisco 49ers went Heisman Trophy winner Brian Tucker at, 17 overall, and he does come back with hidden development. Very good traits there. Tantalizing receiver on the outside, although the route running does need some work. They went wide receiver John Bell a little bit later, and he actually has a higher overall than Brian Tucker, 76 overall, slot receiver out of LSU. And that is not what I was expecting. We did have him on our board. He might have been a day 3, maybe even an undrafted guy, but very good overall there. 2 high overall receivers in this class for San Francisco. As we now move on to the New York Giants, Virgil Morton, 77 overall tackle. I think he was one of the top rated players in the entire class, and definitely living up to that. Tremendous pass blocker as he comes from Ohio State, joined by teammate Matt Miner, who they selected in the 2nd round. So the Giants now have 2 of the starting offensive linemen from last year's Ohio State team, both with hidden development and both figure to be starters in week 1. Matt Miner was one of our top targets, but we elected to trade down from 32 and instead got Joey Bost a little bit later. Justice James, the linebacker we liked, they picked in the 3rd round. And they had a bunch of picks here on day 3, adding some good depth. As a very good draft here from the Giants, as I think it's going to be the Giants or the Cowboys to win the NFC East, as the Eagles are definitely on the downward spiral now. The Jags went corner in the 1st round, safety in the 2nd round, trying to build up that defensive backfield. Then 3 more defensive players selected along with another corner, so their first 6 selections all defense. And then they ended it with 2 offensive linemen in the 6th and 7th rounds. The Jets go Alex Costello, pass rusher out of LSU there in the 1st round, a running back in the 2nd. Brian Bartlett, 74 overall linebacker in the 3rd. But they had only 1 more selection after that. Lions had themselves a good draft with 2 guys at 75 overall or better. A 72 overall D tackle there, Clayton Johnson out of Wisconsin, a player we liked on our board. The Packers started with Ed Stockton, 72 overall D tackle out of Auburn, and went back to the D line in the 2nd round with 74 overall Aaron Weber. As they looked to build up that front, also went defense the next 4 picks before finishing with the wide receiver. The Carolina Panthers went Brandon Foster at 3rd overall, 76 overall speed rusher, and he does come back with hidden development. 83 speed, 73 block shed with 81 finesse move. Last year, all the pass rushers seem to come back with normal development, so it's good to see the top one in this year's class come back with hidden development. They went CJ Stanley in the 2nd round, a top-rated offensive lineman throughout the process, but really fell there towards the end. Came back with around 3 to 4 talent grade, which forced him to slip into the 2nd round. The Patriots went James Tranquil and Broderick Foster, 2 power rushers back-to-back, trying to bolster that pass rushing attack as our former offensive coordinator Brian Callahan takes over as their head coach. The Las Vegas Raiders started with Stephen Coles, the top-rated prospect in the class, and he comes back 77 overall, hidden development, 93 throw power, 89 short accuracy, throw on the run, break sack, both at 85 at least, 79 speed. So not the best athlete, or not the most imposing athlete, but definitely can get by I saw he had good agility and acceleration. They got a 78 overall cornerback in the second round and a decent strong safety there in the third. So good class, I would say, for the Raiders, especially getting their franchise quarterback, which has eluded them for quite some time. The Los Angeles Rams here went Trey Hurst, who we were looking at. He was top on our board, and we came just 5 picks away from selecting him. And 74 overall, good traits, but not hidden development, which I would have been disappointed about if we did end up drafting him. But 79 speed with 91 strength at over 300 pounds. You got to love that combo, and we're going to be playing against him twice a year now. The Rams also went receiver, cornerback, running back, tight end, quarterback, and running back. Really no impact players of note, as the Baltimore Ravens went offensive tackle. Middle linebacker, Emmett Porter was my favorite linebacker in the class. He does come back with hidden development and 90 speed. Rocking the neck roll, dude looks like Leighton Vander Esch, straight out of Boise State, although Porter, a UCF product. They went Marcus Dyson, running back out of Michigan, in the third. Wide receiver Terrence Cousins in the fourth, as they went Michigan and then Ohio State in back-to-back rounds. The Saints go offensive tackle, pass rusher, really not much of note in their class. And we're going to wrap it up here with the Seattle Seahawks. They went Peter Ross at 9 overall, 72 overall pass rusher, continuing to build that defensive line with Reynaldo Bryson, D tackle out of California, 75 overall, a 76 overall left guard. Very good pick there in the third, before going receiver, running back, and defensive end to close it out. But this is where I'm going to leave you, folks. Thank you so much for watching. It was a very fun NFL draft episode, maybe one of our more underwhelming draft classes, just because in the past, like I said, I think making now the previous 3 out of 4 drafts, we had multiple first round selections. This time we trade out entirely and we end up not selecting until 51, but we're the reigning Super Bowl champions, so don't question the process. We know what we're doing, as I think we added some quality players to this roster, as Joey Boss probably set to be a week 1 starter. Roosevelt Howell definitely going to impact the game in 2 tight end sets along with Mark Andrews, and the rest of our class going to try and find their roles during their rookie seasons. But as always, everybody, it's been real, and be well. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.